Hey, what's going on out there, YouTube?
What's up about there, everyone?
What's going on, y'all? So we've been binge watching the Daredevil series, and we just finished looking at episodes 5 and 6. Episode 5 is The World on Fire, which is crazy, the meaning behind that. And then the second one, which is the 6th episode, was Condemned. The series just keeps on topping itself on different levels and different ways. And I mean, there's never been a point that I've been like, oh man, I'm getting tired. Like, I woke up this morning early, like kind of like taking my time getting out of bed, but I was like, man, I really want to see this journey. I want to see what's going to happen next. And I was talking to some of my people on Twitter and Instagram, and they were basically on the same episode as me, and they've been really enjoying it. Everybody's been talking about it. This is one of the better like exclusives or Netflix originals that have come out, and for Marvel to make something like this, they are showing themselves off. It's been really good. What do you think about it so far, Joe, before we get into this review?
I like it. I mean, of course, we would like it. You know what I'm saying? It's really good series. Definitely, it's very surprising and gritty. I think that's one of the aspects to make it good.
Yeah. The way that The World on Fire, which is episode 5, starts off with Rosario Dawson's character. She's in the shower. She's just coming back from basically getting kidnapped, abducted, beat down, threatened to death, and Daredevil got her out, you know what I'm saying? And then what the casualty of that is the Russian, Vladimir's brother had gotten killed by Fisk. But she was looking at her scars, and I could tell that she was kind of like dealing with kind of post-traumatic stress, I guess. But what I liked about the relationship or the interaction that happened early in the morning, they were kind of flirting with each other, but it was more than that. I felt like Matt was being really vulnerable in front of her. Like she knows exactly who he is. She knows what he does. But at the same time, I was thinking that last episode he was gonna draw the line. He was gonna cut the cord. He's gonna be like, look, you need to just kind of back off. And I feel like part of him in doing all these different things, like he knows it's requiring of him to do more outlandish and terrible things. And it might get to a point that he's gonna have to actually take lives. But she is kind of basically challenging him with just relating to him. And I really like the relationship. I really like how him and Claire click together. She's not just like saving his life one wound at a time. Like she's kind of saving what parts of his soul is kind of left or is remaining of it. But what else happened in the episode, Joe? Did you want to talk about anything that kind of struck your chord with it? Because I know that Wilson had met back up with old girl, right? What else happened? The Russian brother was upset because of who was it? Fisk set it up to make it look like Daredevil did it. That's what happened. Fisk made it seem as though Daredevil was the one that basically decapitated his brother's head and sent him back the body because he put his mask in the body's left sleeve. And so these Russians, they were on a warpath. But I'll let Joe describe kind of like what was kind of the tension of it because they were rolling deep. What was your assessment, I guess, at that point? Then the Russian found out, or he thinks that Daredevil took his brother's life.
Yeah. So that was 2 episodes. Definitely the plot revolves around, kind of like this development of the Russian brother, Vladimir's brother, who's been murdered. So Vladimir, he's thinking like, the Daredevil actually, or the Masked Man, killed his brother. And then towards later on, you gotta get a feel like this gets revealed that he then finds out or thinks that the masked vigilante is working for Fisk. And so when he catches wind of this, he's like, okay, I'm gonna take on both of these guys. And, he sets out a bounty to find the location of Fisk. He puts out $1 million for the location of Fisk, and he's gonna what I'm saying, do his mob thing, go after him, pretty much. And he's coming with his full army.
Gosh,
he literally had like a small army, and they were just like loading up their weapons. And then while in the midst of doing this, and it shows These 2 episodes, you definitely get a feel of Fisk's his ability to plot and scheme and really bring detriment to his opponents, to his foes, to his enemies. And you see like the just mastermind behind this dude. He plots every inch, every moment for Vladimir. And Vladimir, you actually think, one point in the series, you're actually thinking, okay, Vladimir is going to take this guy down in a moment where Fisk is unprepared. But Fisk is not unprepared. He actually sets the whole thing up. Actually blows up while they're getting ready to mobilize on him. There's one of the triads or the Japanese workers for
the blind ones.
Yeah, the
blind
working
ones. For the old woman.
Yeah, worked for the old.
Oh, because that's right. The other one got killed.
Yeah, and she sends him into the factory where they're at, like, and then he has a bomb, and it was just so crazy, and that just wipes out entire Vladimir's operation.
Yeah.
Right there. And that's probably the main segue between the first episode we're talking about and then the second episode we're talking about now.
Yeah.
So it was pretty crazy. It was really a thick situation that you know what I'm saying, Murdoch was in.
Yeah.
It's a very thick situation.
And it's interesting to me is that when the actual facility got blown up, Daredevil was on the outside trying to get in. Like, he had already hit one of the establishment, and I thought it was one of the coolest scenes of the show so far. Is when there's this Asian guy, he was in the back of a car, and this is earlier on before the place got exploded. And they had the camera revolving around the Asian guy just singing. Like, they asked him, "Do you know anything about this Daredevil?" He's blind. He can barely hear. And the scene goes, it just keeps on twirling. You see an instance of Daredevil, then you see this Daredevil just beat these dudes down, and then the guy that's singing just dies. I was so sad for the Asian guy. And I mean, one of the things that is funny, before I even go into kind of what happens with Daredevil, is that while this is also going on, they go into a different story arc with Foggy and Karen. And I guess Foggy had a relationship with this young attorney or whatever early on. And you kind of get to see like different things and skills of Foggy. Like, he's not just a real pushover. Like, he knows his stuff. But more than anything, they go and attempt to help out the Latino person that comes in. And they go to the house, and they're kind of like having like a date kind of setting. And the Latino lady is just so happy they're going there to help them out. But when the explosion happens, and Daredevil's on the outside, he's trying to fight. Like, the explosion pushes the door out of the way, and he gets out of there. But there's explosions that go all across the whole city. And it's all the Russian establishments. It's not just the one, it's all over. And one of the establishments was right next to where Foggy and Karen were with this Latino lady. And the whole place blew up. And they had to take the lady out there. I was like, whenever they're out, whenever Karen and Foggy are out, I feel the danger with the city at all times. I never know what's going to happen. I always think of the worst thing. I'm not sure if that's me. But just looking at where they're at or where they go, it's like, man, something's going to go down. Something bad's going to happen. I think Joe has said, whenever it seems like something's good is about to go on, like, somebody's going to get got, basically. And this is one of those times that actually really did happen. And it was so serious that when Fisk was talking with his date, he was basically saying, he was like, the city needs to basically die so it can be reborn in the way I need it to. And he didn't make light of anything that he does. What was so funny is that she accepted it. She was like, well, you remember this like report about this young boy getting kidnapped while his dad's getting beaten on the ground? Like, these animals are the ones that did it. And she's like, well, now they can't do anything anymore. And Fisk was like, well, what do you think about it? She's like, oh, good. And like, she just watching the city burn. I'm like, okay, yeah, he picked out the right person for him, because she's perfectly fine with all this. Now, I don't know if she's a narc or undercover or whatever. If she is, like, he's just playing with her, because I feel like he would be 3 steps ahead. I don't think he would just get in line with anybody. It's always to the point. But that episode, I thought was really good. It was a good setup. I give it a 9.0. I really liked it. But I liked the second episode even more. What would you give the rating for the first, the 5th episode?
I'll give it a 9.
It was a good setup.
Yeah.
It was a really good setup. So the next episode is Condemned. Okay, if you don't want to be spoiled for the 5th episode, don't listen any further. But at the end of the 5th episode, Daredevil makes it out, but he hears slowly that Vladimir actually made it out with one of his colleagues, and they were hurt. And so Daredevil goes and proceeds to like put hands on them, like beat these dudes down, have Vladimir on the ground, like punch him away. I thought he was gonna beat him to death. And all of a sudden, the police roll up. And he's cornered, like there's no way. And that's how the beginning of this episode starts off. Like Daredevil's just like this, and there's nothing he can really do. I was thinking the cops were just gonna shoot him in the back. And he proceeds to move off of him, they cuff him. And then when he sees the cops, these dudes target Vladimir on the ground. And he breaks his way out of those freaking cuffs. He puts work on them dudes. He beats them down terribly and gets away with Vladimir. And that's how the episode starts. And from that point on, the whole episode is just a roller coaster, because it's really like it's an internal battle between what Daredevil's ideals are and then what Fisk or Kingpin's plot is. And all of it gets revealed in different conversations throughout the episode. This episode is probably one of my favorite because hands down, like some of the things that Daredevil has to do, some of the things that like happen, like every line is tested. And one of the things I didn't talk about the last episode is when him and Claire were talking early on, she asked him, "What do you see?" And like you kind of get a glimpse of kind of what he sees in his vision. I guess because it's kind of like a sonar kind of sense, because he smells everything, he hears everything. It's like basically he sees the world on fire. And I was like, that is perfect for the line of like world on fire. And I thought that was really cool. I did talk about it the last episode. But did you want to talk about anything of this episode that we just experienced right there, Joe?
Yeah. So the first segue, like it ends off, you know what I'm saying, kind of with how did it end? It actually ended with Daredevil escaping with Vladimir from the aggressive police, right?
Oh, you're talking about after the opening scenes?
The second one began, yeah.
Nah, after the first. This is how this began.
Well, anyway, so you got Daredevil with Vladimir, and after the explosion, in the actual like Vladimir's like headquarters, whatever. So after the explosion, Fish, she sends like a police sweep team to confirm that pretty much Vladimir's dead. And
anybody else?
And that was one thing that was like really surprising to me, was like after the explosion, Vladimir and one of his henchmen, they're the only two people that actually like escaped from the explosion, and they're outside of the building trying to flee the scene. And that's when Daredevil comes in. He's like fighting dudes. He's fighting the two, and that's when the police show up. And it's funny because the police came really quick, like very quick. And I was like, yo, this might be a setup. And sure enough, you know, it was a setup. It was actually, they're actually trying to confirm Vladimir's death. And so after they kind of like break up this fight, like they were going to kill Vladimir. And so this entire episode, it was like pretty much Daredevil trying to save Vladimir. And all the while, these two are held up in a warehouse.
Yeah.
In an abandoned warehouse, trying to escape the police. They eventually get discovered by this one rookie cop.
Yeah.
And then after that point, it's like, all right, so it's like fair game now, because they're actually held up in this place, and the cops already know where they are. And it's a very interesting dialogue between Daredevil and Vladimir.
Yeah.
He's trying to get information out of him that would give him weight against Fish, and then at the same time, Vladimir is like a typical mob boss. You know, he's like, man, like thug life till I die.
You don't trust his tail.
Yeah,
kill him.
It's just being difficult.
Yeah.
And at this point, and it's like, it's very interesting to see. And I mean, the entire episode, man, it was really good because it was like high stakes. It was a high stakes situation.
Yeah.
Like hold up situation. It was like the whole time he was like holding your breath. Like,
Oh yeah, that's right. Vladimir almost died at one point.
That dude almost died.
Cause he got shot
3 times. He almost died like 3 times, y'all. And the dude is just he's an OG, man. Like he's an OG. He's like he's not going out like a punk, you know. And also this episode, it was like towards the end, while they were still in this warehouse, there was like a walkie from the cop.
Oh yeah.
And then Fisk, he had the other walkie to the other end, and there's the first interaction between Fisk and the Daredevil over the walkie radio. So it's very interesting.
It was some really good dialogue.
It was good dialogue, good acting. I give this episode a 10, bro. This was the episode I was waiting for, man. So I was like, oh crap, anything can happen, anything goes.
It's true. It's true.
Like a battle royale.
Yeah, because I mean, I saw I think Fisk's assistant give him the walkie. I was like, man, what in the world has he got a walkie for? He's listening to the police scanner so he could take somebody out. That's what I was assuming. But it was so much more than that. And what was so funny is that Ben Urich was there on the scene. And he had gotten wind of what was going on. He's like, all these explosions that happen, these aren't like by chance. These are all Russian establishments. So he goes down to the scene, try to interrogate these bad, dirty cops. And because his presence is there, they can't just bomb the building, which brings the stakes even higher because now Kingpin is left with the standard like he has to go or either kill Urich or try to go and consult with Daredevil to kill Vladimir. And it's so crazy because basically he had told him, he was like, look, everything that you're doing, your ideals are what make you dangerous. Not your skill, it's not your mask, it's not the fear you bring to people, it's your idealism. It's so flawed that it's a detriment to my city and what my purpose is to do this. And so he was like, look, you don't have a chance, basically. And when he hung up the mic on him, I was like, I have no idea how they're gonna get out of there. And it was really well done. Like I give it episode 10 out of 10. Even the stuff that was going on with Foggy and Karen, like Foggy was jacked up. Like he got he got stuck with something from the explosion. He was bleeding. They took the Latino lady to the hospital, thankfully. But like they are looking at the news report, and basically Fisk had painted the picture that Daredevil is the person that's doing all of this. He's the one that hit the mob bosses. He's the one that shot the cops. He's the one that, of course, did that. And it's just such a crazy setup that it's all pushing the name. Like he hasn't had his established name yet, but I think the time when it comes, like it's gonna be because of all the stuff that's being pushed onto him. And he's gonna embrace it because, like the city, he doesn't have a choice. Like it's gonna require him to be something that he doesn't want to be, or even that he hates. Yeah. And you can tell it all over him in his demeanor. The acting is just so well done. But this dude that plays Wilson Fisk, he acts it so well because just how he interacts with everybody. Like he comes across all kind of like intellectual and kind of weird and meek. He comes like an introvert essentially, but he's so fierce and scary because he's already plotted everything, and that embodies what Wilson Fisk or Kingpin is supposed to be. And it's funny because when Urich was going and doing like a label thing, he had found, he was like, it was a question mark and it had like the king on the top of it, and then he pinned it down. I was like, that's a subtle nudge to the Kingpin. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. But nah, this show is just awesome, and I can't wait for what's gonna happen next. I'm not going to talk about how it ended, but it's going to end on a high note. But yeah, I can't wait to look at the next episode 7. I don't even know the name of it. I think in episode 7 is going to be Stick. So maybe he might get his baton. Who knows? I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, hopefully y'all enjoyed our review for episode 5 and 6. And definitely leave your comments in below. Thanks for everybody that looked at the last 2 reviews. And look for more to come eventually. Joe might have to go to work, so we might look at a little bit more later on tonight or maybe tomorrow. But either way, thanks for tuning in, y'all. SCL0320 signing out. Daredevil, baby. Waka waka. Oh, snap.